so this reminds me of a topic we had offline about Kevin Feige's comments about there is no superhero fatigue. This kind of brings up some points that I was trying to make. And I'm not saying it's the sole reason for why the numbers are down, but it is a part of the reason.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
I didn't want to have bald people on the top and people with hair on the bottom.
Oh, I was joking. Come on.
Hey, that wasn't me.
Preparing us up. But now I know you did it the last time.
That was the way it is.
No, I'm joking.
Welcome everybody to Blerdlines. This is your man Cam. With me, as always, is
the other Cam, aka Black Man, Sandman, Father of Time, Father of Dreams, Peace.
As well as
it's Josh. I'm resentful of the conversation we just had.
And as always, keeping us honest,
the professor, and in line with our man Dream down there, I am the unkindly one.
And we're back real quick. We wanted to hop on and talk really quickly about the box office numbers that just kind of came out. And it ain't looking too good for our Marvel homies over there.
It's telling the story for sure.
Yeah, I think out the gate, Fantastic Four did great, which is awesome. We all watched it. We just had to go check it out. We did a nice whole episode on it. But now that the numbers are starting to come in and we're starting to see some, more numbers about it, we're starting to see where Marvel's starting to land. This is 2025. We're in August. They dropped 3 films, and it's looking closely that these films might not even be in the top 10 of box office receipts by the time we get to the end of the year. And honestly, they kind of deserve it. It's just what it is.
Even by the end of the summer, because when you think about some of the things that's coming, and the fact that the bad guys 2 and things like that are causing trouble, and even Superman 4 weeks in, almost a month in, is still holding that number 4 spot. Because this is recent, right? This was published today, or
I think this. Yeah, so this is the box office numbers that just published. We're recording on a Sunday, on the 3rd, and so this is just recent. And Superman's
First Step's not even in the top 10 yet.
Yeah, and and also Superman's been out for what, about a month now?
Almost a month, and
almost.
And it's still, that's a very that whole top 5, those are lukewarm numbers in comparison to previous summers. Just last summer, because the one of the articles, I believe it was Deadline or Variety, had mentioned that if you just contrast these numbers to last year with Deadpool and Wolverine, for example, which finished with, I think, somewhere close to 700 million. Now, at the same time, that movie was gimmicked out to wazoo with all the nostalgia and all of that stuff, and Wolverine and Deadpool, but their marquee characters can still sell. But this is one of their top characters that they're treating for the first time, or top team, superhero team that they're treating for the first time. And when I see these numbers, it definitely tells a story that Marvel was hoping to avoid, I think, as we got to the premiere of the Fantastic Four and post premiere of that. I think this was their nightmare, was this scenario right here. Well, it could have been worse, but this is still a nightmare for them, because you have all of these films that in the past would not have even sniffed Thunderbolts' heels, but now you only have 2 in the top 10, and those 2 aren't even cracking the top 5. So I think they're going to see this, and some heads are going to roll, I know for sure, and some changes are going to be made, and I can see even some of the plans that they already have right now changing up a bit, because I don't think that Doomsday or Secret Wars will only increase a little bit, but this story will still ride them into that because they're still banking on nostalgia and that type of stuff.
Could we? So this reminds me of a topic we had offline about Kevin Feige's comments about there is no superhero fatigue. This kind of brings up some points that I was trying to make, and I'm not saying it's the sole reason for why the numbers are down, but it is a part of the reason.
It's clear.
It's clear. I also just kind of look back, like I said, pre-COVID, post-COVID. We got a recession going on. There's a lot of nuanced factors that could play a factor in why these box office sales are going down. Also, we have to maybe give some credit to the audience becoming a little bit more savvy in certain things when it comes to these Marvel movies. You know, maybe they're tired of like the same song and dance and bad writing or whatnot. And then I look at the Fantastic Four. It has a history of being bad movies translated to the screen from the comic book pages, whereas Superman, it's Superman. It's been here. It's the first superhero. It has that cachet of being what it is, and it's gonna do numbers, maybe not grandiose numbers like in the comic book movie heyday, but it's still going to pull in the audience, right? Whereas the Fantastic Four has a previous history of not doing so well in the box office. And then you got to understand how much of the populace care about these characters. The Fantastic Four does not have the cachet, even though it's Marvel's first family, like a Spider-Man. And D, you mentioned Deadpool, Wolverine. Well, we also know the X-Men was front-loaded by Wolverine. That's the draw, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
So,
and with Hugh Jackman, you got
Hugh Jackman right?
in that role. You might as well put, that's like having the top championship boxer on the marquee. You're going to get people there, even if that fight is a dud.
So, in my opinion, there's a lot of you'd have to. Personally, I'd have to do a deep dive on the numerous factors, but I'm just going surface level what I'm seeing. And if we did a deep dive, we could probably get into the nuanced details of why Marvel is suffering. I don't think it's just one singular factor. I've been seeing trending lately on the socials. There was 4 movies that potentially was the quote unquote death or decline of the Marvel movies, and they credited the Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange as being a bad one, Marvels, and 2 others, and they've added Fantastic Four to the list. But
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder.
It was Love and Thunder and Quantumania. I think the articles that I saw,
I agree.
They suggested in a more serious contemplation that the beginning of the downslide was Love and Thunder and Quantumania. And I agree with that in terms of, because I think some of those other ones are not necessarily bad movies. They're not strong enough to keep those people who are not purely Marvel fans. Like the Eternals, something like The Marvels. I watched The Marvels. It was not a bad movie.
It was fine.
No, it was not.
Multiverse of Madness was not a good movie, but that was the sort of early version of them really flubbing and dropping the ball with this multiverse. I mean, because that was the beginning where it looked like in that film, like they had no idea where they wanted to go with the multiverse or anything for that matter.
Go ahead, Cam.
Let me add one more thing. So we noticed Sinners up there. Sinners is not a great movie in my opinion. Come at me. I'm on socials. However, what I'm saying is, like Black Panther 1 and 2, Sinners, we have a section of individuals, Black folks, who are going to support that. And the numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story. Those movies are not very good movies, but they did well in the box office because of a cultural underrepresentation of our own people, and we want to see us do good and whatever that is.
And also, box office doesn't have anything to do with whether or not a movie.
Yeah, Batman versus Superman made $1 billion, but everybody wanted to see just how bad it was.
But more specifically for Sinners, our community is going to push that.
Yes, absolutely.
So regardless of our opinions of how we don't think it's a really great vampire movie, it's still going to do numbers. I don't think that has any bearing on why Superman or Fantastic Four are placed on that. I think that's a different case, especially with Black Panther, because we had a mutual friend who told me that it was going to make $1 billion, and I was like, hell no, it's not going to make more than Endgame or Infinity War, and it made $1 billion, which is crazy to me, right? So, those are factors like that goes beyond, above and beyond of what my expectations of the reality of what a movie is going to make based on who's pushing it, who's in it, and whatnot. Those are just really anomalies, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure and clarify, because Sinners is a special case, in my opinion, where there's a push behind that we don't talk about from the Black community, because they want to support, and among other things, and it has the cachet of that certain director, that certain actor, and the underrepresentation of our people saying, hey, what I'm saying, go watch Sinners, it's a dope movie, and then when you go really look at it, it's not a good movie. Why is this movie doing so well, right? It's the same thing about...
You don't have there is no linear aspect of word of mouth, right? Word of mouth advertising, right? It comes from a bunch of different places, and it's all happening all at once. So you're right. The Sinners is not a particularly good movie. I'll say that to back Cam up. But at the end of the day, with box office, it's a little bit more trickier because, of this list.
Yeah, numbers can be jaundiced. Sure.
Yeah, most of this stuff, the only thing on this list that I would call a good movie based on Hollywood standards is Superman. I haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon, or Mission Impossible, because it's Mission Impossible, but or F1. So I can't say for sure, but out of the ones I've seen, the only one that I think is worthy of the amount of money that it's made is Superman. Sinners, I think I can understand why it made so much money, because all of the factors you just named, all of them happened and converged at once, right? So it's our people. It's the people associated with our people who are going to see with us because they are curious about this thing that we are into. It's the people who are just curious or who just love horror films.
And
it's
also
the people who just want to support. But there's 8 groups that drove that Sinners box office money. And Marvel used to have a lot of groups stacked on top of groups, but they had pop culture. And
I think also, to piggyback on the point that you and Cam made earlier, I think part of the problem with the MCU currently is a lack of escalation. There's no escalation of stakes. There's no escalation of with phase 1, phase 2, even phase 3. There was, okay, we're working towards this thing. We're working towards this clash with Loki. We're working towards this clash with Ultron. We're working towards this clash with Thanos, and that was the big. That you could say permeated from phase 1 all the way through to whatever phase it was where they clashed with Thanos. That was the beginning of it. And I think this phase with Doomsday and Secret Wars, we're not working up to anything. There's no escalation. There's no, you know what I mean? And I think they've gotten away from the formula that works. I don't see any connective tissue between the films that we've had since Endgame that points its way to Doomsday or Secret Wars. And I don't think you will. And so, that's the problem. You don't, if you make really good lemonade and your secret sauce is some aromatic something or the other and basil that you throw in there, and then it gets popular, and you decide to take out the aromatics and the basil and just make Kool-Aid lemonade, people are going to notice. People are going to notice. They're going to rebel. They're going to, you might retain some people who just find, who are fine with that. I mean, hell, I in a pinch, I'll do some country time lemonade, powdered, whatever. If that's what's there, and I'm really hankering for lemonade, and it's really hot that day or whatever, to follow the analogy all the way through, Yeah, sure. I'll do a couple of scoops, some sugar, bang, I got lemonade. But like proper lemonade to keep going, like fresh lemon, aromatics, some agave, or something or the other to sweeten it. It's a different beast, and you can tell quality. And so the point that I'm making is qualitatively, you can tell when it's not the same, and it hasn't been the same for a long time. And I think that's part of the reason why there's been such a fall off with people who would have ordinarily gone to see Marvel movies. They're not the same. The qualitatively, it's not, there's no, whatever that thing is that, that made a first batch of movies what they were.
And because the first batch of movies, go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say is at the end of the day, they lost the plot, right? Like they kind of got high on their own supply. And at a certain point, COVID is definitely a factor, of course, but that could have been they shifted to television. Their first batch of television was actually decent enough. I'm not going to say great, not good. There was some good things in there, some whatevers, but at least
I thought it was all bad. To be honest,
I enjoyed Hawkeye. That's the only one I'll say. I enjoyed it.
Hawkeye was cool.
And Miss Marvel. And Miss Marvel was good for kids.
Hawkeye. You said Hawkeye?
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed Hawkeye, and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel was good for the teens. It was basically CW Marvel. But all that aside, you're right. They lost the plot. They got high on their own supply. They really thought that they could kind of do anything and just give people stuff. And now folks are catching up, and we're seeing that now. Where Fantastic Four, we talked about it before. Go watch the episode. But there's parts of it that are good, but there's parts of it that were like, from a narrative standpoint, you're like, what are you guys doing? And so they lost it.
Can I bring up something? James Gunn made a good point. Not to keep it's like James Gunn is the patron saint to the director who will not be named. Like we bring him up favorably all the time, and the other one is we bring him up to use to
what not to do,
chastise people. But anyway, he had mentioned that he originally, this film was called Superman Legacy, but they struck down the colon and just called it Superman. And for some people, that probably doesn't seem like a big deal. But then when I'm looking at this and it says the Fantastic Four : First Steps, it feels like a continuation of something. If I'm just looking at it off of, you know what I mean? Like if I'm a person who knows very little about the Fantastic Four, if I see that and I don't know, no one says, hey, that's not a sequel, you can go and see it. It's the first part of this. It requires too much explaining as opposed to just calling it the Fantastic Four and not that the Fantastic Four First Steps, even though the First Steps is kind of a double entendre. It has all this different kind of meaning. It loses its feeling when, again, you're talking about something that you're reintroducing to people.
So you wouldn't call it Fan Four Stick?
No, I would not call it that. That wouldn't even pop in my head.
Oh man! But
that was awful.
and so now we're here at this point, a juncture, right? Where, like you said, now they have 3 films. None of them are in the top 10. This has the first time this hasn't happened since 2011, and so you have bankroll these big budget films. They're not making their money back because, again, they got high on their own supply, right? They had a bunch of $1 billion movies, and they were assuming that was always going to be the case, as opposed to hedging their bets and making just whatever they were trying to do.
And writing good scripts.
At least it appears that they thought that way.
Yeah.
Someone wrote that or brought up this fact that they said that they've been doing that since Iron Man. This whole script, and I was like, now that's categorically false. Because there was no MCU at the time. There was no Marvel Studios in terms of the way it exists now. That didn't happen until after, if I'm not mistaken, the first Avengers movie, around the time where it converged and became this company, this subsidiary under Disney.
I think the actual Marvel Studios, I think it's Ultron. I think it was the first one that they actually coined the phrase as made their subsidiary. Because Because up till then, it was still under Marvel.
The rest are distributed. Yeah, the rest are distributed by
Paramount. Because it was like Paramount. Yeah, Paramount was the first 2 phases or whatever, or the first phase. And so I know for a fact that they were not. John Favreau would have not started that film without a complete script. I don't think they would have taken the risk because they were already taking so many risks to begin with.
Right.
With their star.
And the fact that they
hang on one second. I was going to say that they were taking a risk with their star, Robert Downey Jr., who not only because of his reputation before that point, had never been a leading man in any big budget blockbuster capacity. Think about it. He had never been a leading man in Hollywood in terms of he's always only been a supporting actor.
Chaplin?
No, well, yeah, that's true. But no,
Which one?
A franchise.
Chaplin.
Okay.
Chaplin. I said blockbuster Hollywood. Yeah, Chaplin was more of a
indie art house.
Cinema, that's one they don't expect to make money but get all the awards. But I forgot about that though. You're right. Chaplin, he was a lead. But Iron Man's the first big budget lead.
And I mean, there was a ton of risk. There was the fact that Downey had just come off of not only being in jail, but in rehab, and nobody wanted to touch him.
Nobody.
He had to pay for his own. The legend goes that he had to pay for his own insurance because nobody would insure him.
Yep.
The original plan was to take the money that Paramount gave them and sprinkle it across a bunch of different films. And someone had the smart idea to be like, no. We're going to take all of the money and we're going to throw it into one film.
And the other thing I was going to say is it was a Paramount for distribution, but like the funding for the bulk of it was through Marvel's actual war chest. So this is an all or nothing thing. So if this would have flopped, it would have been a wrap.
This was after Perlmutter optioned off all a bunch of other stuff that
that's when they did
that basically saved Marvel from
Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Namor, Galactus, Punisher,
which would later take them about 20 years to get back. Almost 20 years to get back.
But that's the other aspect. So I think like it's one of those things where they had a plan for a good chunk of things. They didn't have a plan and they tried to fake a plan. And now you can see what the results of faking that plan is. And so now that they're not doing it, I think the audience members, to Cam's credit, has now caught up. So either they gotten smarter, they kind of see that, was half of it smarter. Marvel's just putting out shit. And then also too, like, again, if you're not putting out quality product, people are going to see it and understand it. And too much to D's credit, like you said earlier, is like, Fantastic Four, if you don't know anything about Marvel and you just watch Fantastic Four as is, okay, kind of cool. But that first steps in that semicolon, you're right. That adds to something that where it's like, oh, this is connected to something I'm supposed to know about. Like,
because it's the MCU. So you naturally assume when you see that colon in the first steps that this is a continuation, because I've been told for the last 20 years that everything that I see on screen that has under an MCU banner is intricately connected to all the other stories. So maybe I don't want to engage in this time around because I don't want to feel like going to watch this show or that movie or this show or that movie so that I can have the full context. I'm not saying that that's entirely what's happening, but I think that's a part of it.
I agree with you in the fact that Marvel movies have the intuitiveness of an Apple iPhone. When you pick up an iPhone, you kind of know things that are familiar to you. So when you go to an MCU movie, this is going to be a Lego piece to a bigger plot, because we've been conditioned in a way of watching for the last 20 years of all these movies starting to connect. So there's an expectation to agree with these points. The first step sounds like, oh, this is going to be part of a bigger story. There's a continuation. So I do agree with him on that part. But I also feel like on the flip side that most of these Marvel superheroes and DC movies are just opaque enough to like mean whatever you want it to mean and mean nothing at all. And that's been the problem with Marvel for a long time. There's nothing behind it. It's just, we're just watching fluff at this point. You know what I'm saying? So occasionally they'll have a happy mistake and hit a home run with a good story and stakes and whatnot. But for the majority of this whole thing since, we'll say Blade was a jump off. It's been the same thing for me, So I like, again, personally, outside of this podcast, maybe what I'm saying is maybe this will make people go watch other movies, because I don't think people watch enough movies. We just watch a certain amount of movies, and it's like hit or miss. I'm saying Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are mid, but mid is average. That's good. It's good. It's watchable. It doesn't suck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're
like
Hollywood blockbuster products. You have to think about them in that way. I mean, it's either going to entertain you, or they might by accident tell some kind of intellectually worthy story that you're going to follow. But for the most part, you're going to see a superhero, big budget, tentpole. People like us, we know that they can only do so much, and it's not like it's one vision, one person that's making these decisions. It goes through the ringer. So, I give Fantastic Four a little, and I blame Marvel's executives because of the fact that you've had about 3 decent movies that should have made a lot of money, but because it's just like what happened years ago with the Terminator franchise. By the time we get to Dark Fate, an actually good Terminator movie, really good Terminator movie, everybody's like, well, I just spent money to see Genesis, and it was terrible. It was horrible. They killed John Connor and made him into a Terminator. So it's like now everybody...
And gave it away in the trailer.
And they had the nerve to have people like Matt Smith. They disrespected Matt Smith and Emilia Clarke, all these people who are in that movie doing nothing. And so that's where Marvel is now. Even with a good movie and even with the word of mouth, the average person is like, I just don't want to waste my time because I just don't care anymore. It doesn't excite me anymore.
Yeah, and and doubling back to and piggybacking on doubling back to something Cam said, and piggybacking on the point you just made simultaneously, it's because they don't have anyone helming anything. When things were at their concentric best, it was because Whedon was the one who was guiding the whole show on some, all right, we're going to have this happen, and then this big thing happens that connected to all the other things that have happened previously.
Right. So Whedon set up Thanos, not like just randomly happening, or they weren't like, oh, Thanos is the next villain, so this next filmmaker has to build to Thanos. Like, no, Whedon said, boom,
this is what we doing.
This is where we're going.
And that was mimicking what was about with how Marvel does their writing, right? When they do their writing, they'll have, hey, this is all the people that are on the X-Men books talk to each other. And they're like, where do you want to go in the next year? Here's all the Spider-Man people. Here's all the Avenger people. Oh, you can't use that character because I'm using them over here. Cool. But there's a conversation. So that at least
there's a coordination.
Yeah.
Right.
And but like Cam said, now we're at that point where it's just, if you you're really, really into it, you could take it or leave it. And I think that's where we're at this point. And to more put this to a head, I mean, next year, what do they have? They got Spider-Man. I think that's Spider-Man and
Brand New Day.
New Day. And then what Doomsday is like, what, the end of the year?
Yeah.
I think it's like December.
Something like that.
That even says that Marvel is not, they're afraid now, because the fact that you move Doomsday to the winter months, that's like, yikes. That's like, no pun intended, that's the cold season.
But isn't that the same framework for Infinity War versus no, because Infinity War
was a little early. I think Infinity
War.
April.
It was April. Yeah.
I thought something Infinity was War. In like October, but it wasn't. Maybe it was. It was always May, right? It was always April.
It was April, and I know it was April because it was the weekend of my closest friend's wedding.
And Endgame was May, and I know that because it was near my birthday. And
same.
And so
April 26th was the release date, so call it beginning of May.
Yeah, but that's the beginning of the summer box office season, and they have always been at the forefront. Not always. The last 20 years, they've been at the forefront of the start of that season. So again, if you're looking for signs that movie, they don't have confidence in it and that it's everything that we think it's going to be, which is, what have I called it? Avengers Gimmick Day and Avengers the Nostalgia Wars. they know that that's what's coming, and that's why they schedule Doomsday in the winter in December, because they don't want the competition, and that's where they are right now.
So
they can't afford the competition.
So to bring this home, have we lost hope? Is it over? Is this what it is?
I just don't care.
Yeah, it's mid. It's just mid. We're at this point where we're just like,
go watch more movies.
Don't care is more than mid. That's a lot more than mid.
Yeah, there are mid movies, but in the overall scheme, the content is mid, but in the overall things, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, you're not looking forward to anything. You're just kind of like, even Spider-Man, I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I just don't. I'm not anticipating it. I'm not into it. Like Superman, you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, this could be interesting. I want to see you guys go next.
Well, now I'm more interested in where DC is going. Like I really don't care about Marvel. I'm interested in what the new DC, what they're gonna do. And I'm interested and invested in Chapter 1. I don't care about Marvel, and that's not to knock them. It's just to say that they lost me a long time ago. That's where they are. Yeah, and I've been saying that for a long time, that I'm not with Marvel. And I haven't liked their films, not really, since the Multiverse of Madness. And there was some things in between that. First season of Loki, and what was and Spider-Man and Guardians. That's it.
Yeah,
I think for me, I'm approaching it the way that I approach comics, right? And so as a lifelong X-Men fan and reader, there's been some high highs and there's been some low lows. And I think if you take it on, you treat it like the stock market. On average, there's going to be massive dips and then there's going to be rises and it's going to level out. So I've been anticipating the dip in the MCU almost since the beginning. I was like, I remember saying to one of you guys, I was like, how long can they maintain this? Something's got to get, if there's no Whedon and there's no Gunn and there's no centralizing, and Feige should not be it. If he is it, then that explains some of the problems. But and it's not to knock him. I think as a big picture guy, he is great. But I think if he's the one who's coming up with the plots and coming up with the, the direction the script should go, that's not where his strength lies, in my opinion. That said, like I said, I treat it like having been an X-Men fan since I was like 4 or 5 years old. There's been some high highs, there's been some low lows, and it averages out. And I think it's not going to get back to the levels that it can be without some central guy or central gal who's going to be like, all right, this is the way that we're going. This is what every film should be like. This is the tagline that every film should have. This is, I don't know, the end credit scene should point this way. Doesn't have to, but there should be some interoperability that person brings to each film. And until you have that, I don't think it's going to get back to the heights that it's been.
I think it should be a partnership, like what we're seeing work with Safran and Gunn. Gunn, they both probably do. Gunn probably reviews budgets and looks in on financial matters, but at the end of the day, he knows that's not his strength, and he has to lean on Peter Safran. And the same thing with the storytelling aspect. Gunn understands storytelling and how to make the best out of it. And so when you pair those two, one who is very intelligent when it comes to the managing the studio's money, and the other one very intelligent in terms of creative and knowing how to tell a beginning, middle, and end story. That is what you need. Feige.
But to my point, Whedon was the story guy, Gunn was the story guy, and Feige was the one who ran the studio and sort of did the big picture stuff. So it's kind of a similar.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was ever confirmed that those two, that was their actual role outside of the movies that they were involved in. I mean, they set up some things, yes, but I don't know if they were the sort of. I mean, you may know more. I don't know for sure, but what I'm saying is that, and forget Feige. because he shouldn't have disrespected my man Anthony Mackie like that. And I'm not the biggest what's his name? White Joe, Black Joe Kinnaman fan. I'm not the biggest of his fan. But
I'm Tupac.
But at the same, and he was Tupac. But at the same time, I'm not about to talk up Kevin Feige after what he said. Said about him.
By no means is this me cheerleading him at all. I'm just stating bare facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like they just they lost the plot, man. They got high on their own supply. They really thought they could do whatever they want, and they letting that bankroll go in.
To expand on what D is talking about, it's the statement. What was the statement, Cam? Do you remember what the statement was, or the quote was?
He said that it was paraphrasing it. He said that what is his name? Oh,
that brand new, the bold new
Brave New World did not make as much money because they did not have Chris Evans. They didn't have Steve
as
Rogers.
Captain America. Okay.
Chris Evans as Steve Rogers as Captain America. So he didn't mention at all the fact that script was absolute or anything else. So
we don't care about that, Saxon.
And the sad part is even taken in context, it's a bad look. It's a bad look to even have said that. Even if he didn't mean it that way, which I have my opinion on one way or the other. But, regardless, it's a bad look to have allowed that as a public figure and as the head of a studio to allow something like that to come out of your mouth, given the amount of support the Black community has given to damn near every movie
which I still don't understand why. I really don't understand.
That's a topic for another podcast.
I was going to say, Feige sounds like the people in the movies who say, "You ain't Captain America."
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But only after it didn't make any money. If it had made money, he'd been like, "My Captain America, right here." But because it didn't make any money, it's like, you know what? I think we should have next time. Let's not cast a Black lead. Because I think that's the reason. I think that's what it was,
and it's painful that that's the implication. But yes, that is how that comes off.
It was more than them. But then when you think about it, the first Black hero they introduce is Black Panther, as opposed to a Blue Marvel or a Blade or someone like that is very nuanced. They give us the story of the group of Blacks in Marvel's world who basically turn their backs on the suffering of Black people in America. And so reconciling all of that, you can begin to see a narrative about Kevin Feige and his MCU.
Well.
And on that note, thank you for listening.
Ooh, we're going to end there.
100%. Keep it honest, Josh. Yeah, keep it honest.
Woo.
Keep it honest.
100%. Yeah. Just whoa.
As always, thanks for listening to Rant. This is Blerdlines. And we out.
Bring back Edward Norton.
Bye. Stop that. Absolutely not.